Communication Chair for the Latino Task Force. I'd like to welcome you all to the Unidos en Salud site. Which is a collaboration of the Latino Task Force and scientific partners like UCSF, CCI BioHub, and Baples. And we also use the resources of the city, like from DPH and SFMTA. This site is a true representation of what happens when community and scientific minds come together to provide services with dignity, love, and respect. At this site, we have offered over 40,000 vaccines, 4,000 boosters, 700 pediatric vaccines, and over 60,000 tests. Today, you are able to witness what happens when community is put first and when we are able to give input. We ask you that when you think about this every time that you go and you visit other areas or that you're thinking about how to support our communities. The most important thing is to center us and to be able to put our needs first and the way in which we work first. So I would like to thank everybody that has been part of this. Latino Task Force started to respond to the Corona pandemic or the COVID-19 pandemic at the very beginning, and it has been a project that has supported over 7,000 families a week providing food. We also have testing and vaccinations at our 701 Alabama hub. We have hubs in the Bayview and also in the Excelsior. Thank you very much for coming, and now I would like to introduce Senator Scott Wiener.
Thank you, Susanna. First of all, I just want to say I'm in such awe of the work of the Latino Task Force. I've been following it since the very beginning of the pandemic. The mission and our Latino community in San Francisco was so hard hit by the pandemic. We as a city overall did a lot better than other places, but the mission got really hard hit, not just by the virus, but also by the economic fallout of this pandemic, and this community came together. It was driven at a grassroots level by the mission community, by our Latino community, coming together to protect and to support every member of the community. And the city was involved, and UCSF. We were able to put in $1 million at the state level to support the food program, and I just want to really thank every person who made this task force happen, because you've saved lives and have made people's lives better. You know, I also just want to say that the Governor Newsom we were the first state to go into lockdown, and no one wants to go into lockdown, but it was necessary, and this governor, every step of the way, has been willing to make the hard political decisions based on the science, whether it's around the lockdowns, whether it's around masking, whether it's around vaccines, and been willing to take the political heat and the fallout to do what's right for the long-term health and well-being of our community. And when it comes to vaccines, it's so exciting. I mean, as someone who's done a lot of work over the years around HIV, and came of age in the 1980s as a gay man during the height of the HIV pandemic, that's a virus where 40-some years later, we still don't have a vaccine. It took 5 years even to have an accurate test, and 15 years to have medications that worked. And when you look at what's happening with COVID-19, that within a year, less than a year, we had a highly effective vaccine available. It is amazing. It is in many ways a miracle of science that we were able to do this. And now we just need to make sure that people actually take it. And San Francisco, once again, is leading the way with high vaccination rates, but it's still not enough. And we need to make sure that the word is out there to people that these vaccines are safe and effective, and that we want people to get boosters. And again, I want to thank the governor and the Department of Public Health for being willing to get out ahead in authorizing boosters for everyone. Sometimes the federal government can be a little bit slow and California has a history, and San Francisco has a history of being willing to get out ahead when it comes to saving lives. So this is very exciting for our community, and without further ado, I want to just bring up our amazing leader throughout this pandemic, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. And let me thank all of you for the privilege of your time. Thank you, Susanna, for all your incredible work here in the Latino Task Force. And I do appreciate, when I walked in, Senator Wiener said, "You're at the right place." I mean, that enthusiastic support that he just advanced is not lost on me, having had the privilege of being all over the state of California, visiting sites large and small. You know when sites are distinctive in their excellence, and this is one of those sites doing the important work that we're here to promote, and that is the life-saving opportunity to get these booster shots, to deal with waning immunity, continue to encourage people that haven't gotten a shot to get a shot, particularly as we enter into the holiday season, particularly as we move into Thanksgiving week and we move into the winter months that are all too familiar to Californians. I will remind all of you, if you need to be reminded, that between October and December of last year, we saw a 9-fold increase in cases over just an 8-week period. We went from an average of about 6,000 cases a day to 54,000 on, Christmas Eve. In fact, it was on 12/24 of last year that we reached that peak of 54,000 cases, just like that. We saw a few weeks ago some troubling signs with case rates going up, positivity rates going up, hospitalizations and ICUs going up. That said, in the last 10 or 11 days, we've seen some stability, some good signs. That is good news. In fact, today, we lay claim to having the lowest positivity rate in the United States of America, 1.9%. We're seeing a decline. That's encouraging. We're starting to see a decline again in hospitalizations and ICUs, and we're seeing some stability in our case rate as well. That's because of the work that you are doing. That's because of the good work that all of you have been doing for many, many months to put a lid on this virus, to get us through this winter and the prospects of a surge. So we're here to celebrate that success of sorts, but soberly and humbly, and reminding people of the importance not to let their guard down, the importance of face coverings, the importance of continuing to promote the efficacy and promote the safety of these life-saving vaccines, to continue to get our kids, and I know that's not easy, all of our kids that go into public school, they have to receive 10 vaccinations. It's never easy. The measles, mumps vaccine, whooping cough, they're hard, including these vaccines. There have been about 450,000 vaccines that have been administered for those 5 to 11. We have about 3.6 million people that are eligible, so we have work to do, but we are making progress in that endeavor. Boosters, we are making progress as well, not least of which, as I speak, more and more people getting boosters. Just shy of 5 million people have received a booster, 4.96 million as of this morning, to be exact. Last week, we saw 1.4 million people get a vaccine. Over 58% of them were for boosters, but that's encouraging because 42% of folks were getting those first doses as well. Those numbers, just shy of 200,000 just yesterday in our reported period of vaccines. A remarkable, and I think this is rather remarkable, a remarkable percentage of adults 18 and over have received at least one dose, 91.3%. 91.3% of all eligible adults in California have received at least one dose. Now over 58.2 million doses of this vaccine, life-saving vaccine, have been administered here in the state of California. So progress, but we're here to promote work ahead of us. This is our sprint, working our way into the holiday season to encourage and promote boosters, to address, in closing, as always, the imperative not just the importance, the imperative of equity. And that's why we specifically chose this site, not only for its efficacy and for its success, but also because we are promoting the importance, particularly in the Latino community, to get boosters and to get vaccinated. About 17% of all the boosters have been administered within the Latino community. That's not good enough. That's why we're here. And that's why not only are we here today, we're here promoting a new PSA, culturally competent PSA that we're putting out, and dozens of new CBO partnerships like this all throughout the state of California in an effort to make sure we reach out and close that divide. This is a divide that is closing. We have made progress in the last few weeks. That's encouraging. But as I said, a lot more work still needs to be done. And so you'll be seeing new PSAs, more trusted messengers, more partnerships like this throughout the state of California, more school-based clinics, more pop-up clinics, more mobile clinics, meeting people quite literally, not just figuratively where they are, and doing everything we can to keep people healthy and safe so they can enjoy this holiday season. So that's the purpose of today. I'm grateful for Senator Wiener's ongoing remarkable support and leadership in this endeavor, and I want to thank all of the members of the San Francisco community in particular for their nation-leading efforts to keep people healthy and safe. And here we are again, another demonstrable example of San Francisco's leadership, the Bay Area's leadership in this effort as well. So with that, happy, of course, to take any questions.
Hey, Governor, thanks for taking our questions as always. You mentioned some of the challenges of vaccinating the younger Californians, and I'm curious, as regards school reopening and school mandates, is there any consideration in your administration of allowing some more leniency or flexibility when schools or school districts reach certain benchmarks, high enough share of vaccinated people, that type of thing, to create some leniency in things like mask mandates?
Well, I think we have, and to this extent. California has a vaccine framework that allows personal exemptions. California has moved forward with a lot of firsts as it relates to promoting vaccines and or weekly testing. California continues to allow for not just personal belief exemptions, but religious exemptions and medical exemptions as well. The answer to your question is the virus will dictate those terms. And of course, we're not ideological about it. As we increase our life-saving vaccination efforts, as we see a decrease in the transmission of this virus, as we see that R effective, which is at 0.91 today, continue to drop, the epidemiology of this, the nature of its evolution, the mutations, will dictate those terms. And by definition, we're not in a permanent state. So yes is the answer to your question. At the appropriate time, we're not there yet.
Kathy Novak from KCBS. Also on schools, the way that the vaccine mandate works for school staff, it allows some...
Idea.
How did you feel, Governor?
How comforting this is. I'm back at home. Great job. I'm not sure this is going to be the lead PSA, but it is a very human moment.
So my question is actually on school staff and the fact that linking the mandate to FDA approval for kids gives you some time for that consultation with school staff. So I'm wondering how those consultations are going and if you would consider moving up the vaccine mandates for the adults, for the school staff, if necessary.
Again, everything is, the answer is yes, always flexibility. I'll say it in peril of redundancy, but we're open argument, interested in evidence. We're not ideological in terms of our approach to this disease, this virus. We're humbled by it. I imagine states like Florida and Texas were humbled, I hope, in the last few months of what they suffered and all the unnecessary deaths that occurred in those states. We know what works. We know that there are pharmaceutical interventions like boosters and vaccines that have been around since, over 100 years, 150 years. They're very familiar to every parent. Those sounds are familiar to every parent. And then we know there are non-pharmaceutical interventions like mask wearing that work. Ask every doctor, why do surgeons wear masks? Why are doctors, there's fundamentally the efficacy of mask wearing has been well established. And so we'll maintain flexibility in terms of our approach on the basis of how the disease progresses. And we're mindful that 27 states, as I speak, have seen a 10% increase in cases in the last week. 27 states have seen an increase. Ask those governors in the Midwest and the Northeast. Ask the governor of Michigan and Colorado how they're doing. New Hampshire. States are struggling because people are taking down their guard or claiming mission accomplished or not being as stringent as they once were in terms of common sense approaches to help mitigate the spread of this disease. I don't want to see that happen here in California, and that's why we're here promoting what we know works. We have waning immunity, 6+ months, waning immunity. The FDA finally moving, as Senator Weiner said, to allow for everybody that's received Pfizer and Moderna after 6 months, 18 and over, to get that booster shot. California didn't wait. We leaned in. We were the first state to basically say, no questions asked, get that booster. Anyone got J&J, it's 2 months, and get that a booster shot. I want to remind people of that. But as it relates to what's happening in the schools, we'll keep a very watchful eye on it, and we will provide local authority. We believe in localism, and some districts more aggressive than others, but we'll also have baseline expectations statewide. But again, flexibility, always a mindset of flexibility on the basis of what happens with this disease in real time.
Governor Charles Clifford, Cron 4 News. New topic. Over the weekend, we saw multiple examples of looting, smash and grabs, Union Square, Walnut Creek. You want to chime in on that?
Yeah, unacceptable. Period, full stop. The state has, on July 21st, we reestablished our retail theft task force. We put millions of dollars in the budget to develop stronger partnerships with cities and counties to address organized retail theft. We've had over 773 investigations, hundreds of arrests, close to $20 million of stolen items that have been returned as a consequence of these efforts. We'll be stepping up those efforts in next year's budget substantially. And we have been working with cities up and down the state, including San Francisco, Walnut Creek, and others that were impacted over this weekend by these organized retail theft operations. You have already seen on 680, SR4, increased highway patrol presence. You will see substantially more starting today in and around areas that are highly trafficked coming into the holiday season, Black Friday, in shopping malls. So the state is supplementing those efforts, and we are going to be more aggressive still in this space to help support cities and the prosecution of folks. And look, I have no sympathy, no empathy whatsoever. People smashing and grabbing, stealing people's items, creating havoc and terror on our streets, none, period. Full stop. We want real accountability. We want people prosecuted, and we want people to feel safe this holiday season. Why are we here? We're talking about safety, people's health. We want to protect people, and we want to respect people's rights, including small business owners. And I say this knowingly. My business has been broken into 3 times this year. I have no empathy, no sympathy for these folks, and they must be held to account.
Jocelyn with KPIX5. I have a question when it comes to Latino communities, underserved communities. Obviously, they've been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. When we talk about the initial vaccine rollout, the vaccination rate wasn't there. It was moving slower. Now we're talking about booster shots. Can you talk a little bit on what the state has really learned when it comes to reaching the Latino community?
You gotta meet people where they are. We talk about, I know it becomes almost platitudes. You hear these words, and they may mean something to some folks. Most folks just roll their eyes and turn the station when you talk about trusted messengers, meeting people where they are, cultural competency. But there is no substitute for meeting people where they are, knocking on doors, quite literally going into communities, not asking people to come to a location, but going to them. There is no substitute for friends and neighbors working through any anxiety an individual will have and empowering those friends and neighbors with information to work against the very coordinated, talk about organized and coordinated misinformation that is spewed daily, almost hourly. Trust me, I know a lot about this, personally, not just professionally, as it relates to the safety and the efficacy of these boosters. You have to counter that over and over and over again. So we've learned the importance of that. We have 34 ethnic media partners that we are rolling out in this sprint this week. Our community-based organizations are exclusively minority-led organizations. School clinics are proving to be very, very successful and supported. There's a trusted frame, there's a familiarity. School nurses have been particularly helpful. No substitute for community clinics, physicians, and the pharmacies have played a huge role. And that's why I want to remind people they can get their boosters in any of the pharmacies. We're encouraging, again, people that still have anxiety to just learn more, but from people they can trust, not just things they see online.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for taking our calls. I'm Erin with the San Francisco Chronicle. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the protective tools we have available, like monoclonal antibodies, hopefully like a Merck antiviral, something along that, hopefully soon. What is California doing now to sort of get kind of those prepared to deliver those medications, the ones that are already out there? Do we have enough monoclonal antibodies? Are we preparing for an antiviral?
Well, it's amazing. I watch some politicians that act like they're the ones that discovered monoclonal antibodies. California was the first state in the country to partner with the Trump administration in providing and supporting and promoting monoclonal antibodies well over a year and a half ago. I talked about it often. It was noon. You know, you remember those noon press conferences? We were talking a lot about those partnerships at the time, and so we continue to do it. Now that said, last I checked in, and don't PolitiFact me on this, and I'll submit to this, but I saw some price high as $2,100 for the intravenous monoclonal antibodies. Sam, you would know a little bit better. I imagine prices dropped, but there's no substitute for getting sick and then going on something that costs $2,100 that's intravenous in many cases. Some people just act like that's a preferred strategy. Boosters are the preferred strategy. Vaccines are the preferred strategy. Avoiding getting this virus by wearing face coverings is the preferred strategy, but it is an important and can be a life-saving therapeutic. All of the therapeutics are, and California is leading those efforts. Most of these things, world that we live in, so much of it was invented here. And so those partnerships, and UCSF, one of the leaders, Dr. Hagwood has been one of quite literally the leaders in this country on these topics. California continues to lean in that space.
Governor, hi, Leanne Melendez from ABC 7 News. I have a different question, and I'm told that I'm the last person to ask among the reporters. But with regard to what happened in Walnut Creek this weekend and what happened in San Francisco at the Louis Vuitton, a lot of people around the country are saying or asking what is going on. How would you describe what is going on in the Bay Area and California with regard to these retail thefts? What would you call them?
We have organized people that were opportunistic but also organized, and they wanted to take advantage, I imagine. Timing was rather interesting around the Rittenhouse decision, and we're trying to take advantage of that. I mean, these are crimes of opportunity, but they're very well organized. And I have no empathy, no sympathy for these kind of criminal gangs and elements, and they need to be held to account. There's nothing right about this, and so we just got to be more aggressive. And we haven't been passive. As I said, I reconstituted the Retail Theft Task Force in July. We talked about it, and not everybody covered it, okay, respectfully. I'm not sure a lot of folks here did. Did a huge event, 13 big city mayors, police chiefs across the state when we announced our efforts that did it down in Long Beach. So we haven't been shy in this space. We've been leaning in. We have a lot of joint task forces, not just in retail theft, but also other task forces across the spectrum, helping support cities and counties, particularly as it relates to organized elements that are outside of particular jurisdictions. And that's what these look to appear like. I'm not an investigator, but the state is supplementing the investigation of these efforts. The state is offering expertise, training, and data that is being shared in real time. Within hours of the events that occurred on Friday night in San Francisco, CHP reached out to San Francisco Police Department. We reached out to Walnut Creek Police Department. Walnut Creek directed support by asking us to get more folks on 680. We already did that. We did it on SR4 specifically. Others have asked for different kinds of support. We met with retailers over the weekend directly, not just with police departments. And we asked the retailers what they would like, and they would like to see more presence as well. And that's why today you will see an increased presence in and around large retail centers and shopping malls all throughout the Bay. So people see a visible presence as a deterrent. These people need to be held to account. We need to investigate these crimes. We need to break up these crime rings. And we need to make an example out of these folks, because the impact they're having is in your question. They're not just stealing people's products and impacting their livelihoods. They're stealing a sense of place and confidence. And that's why you've got to get serious about it. Now, I'm not the mayor of California, but I was a mayor. And I know when things like this happen, mayors have to step up. That's not an indictment. That's not a cheap shot. Please don't run saying, Governor called. I didn't. I'm just saying that I hope, and I was pleased, and I want to thank Mayor Breed. We were exchanging this morning back and forth text messages. She had a press conference the next day. I liked what the DA said. I mean, that's what you need. Got to be assertive. You got to be tough on this. And again, we will do our part, and we've been doing our part. And I'm looking forward to working with Senator Wiener next year to substantially, I know what I'm putting in next. My budget goes into print in a couple weeks. I already know what I'm putting in. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But there is an exponential increase of support to help cities and counties address this issue and other quality of life issues that I will be submitting to the legislature in the budget. Exponentially larger than what we've done in the past, because we cannot allow this to continue, period, full stop. With that, I just want to thank our 2-star vaccine recipients and their parents for having the courage to be here on camera. I want to thank Senator Wiener for all his hard work and ongoing support, and we just thank you for your incredible work and the entire task force. Thank you all very, very much.